Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the Mafex Knightfall Batman. This is Azrael, Jean-Paul Valley in his Batman armor when he took over Batman after Bane broke his back. Really excited for this Nightfall line. This is the first of what's hopefully going to be many figures from Mafex and Nightfall. At San Diego Comic-Con, they teased both a regular Batman and a Bane, and they both look absolutely fantastic. I ordered this figure from amyamy.com. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right. If you're ordering your Mafex figures from an American store like Big Bad Toy Store or somewhere else, you should stop. You're paying way too much. This guy was $70-some. Add shipping on top of it. It's cheaper and faster than any of those American sites. I will put a link in the description below. So let's go and check out the packaging. As you can see at the top, DC, Batman, Nightfall Batman by Mafex and Medicom Toys. Here he is in the package. I see he has the unmasked Jean-Paul Valley head, some Batarang discs that are going to be projecting from his gauntlet, and then some alternate hands. Top says Batman, comic logo for the 90s. One side of the package, Batman. Here's Azrael. Other side, we got Jean-Paul Valley, Azrael, or Batman standing there, posed up. Nightfall Batman. This is the 144th figure in the Mafex line. Backside, you can see Batman, bunch of different display options, bunch of different poses, looking fantastic. At the bottom, there's a bunch of credits, and there is a barcode, in case that happens to help anybody. So with no further ado, let's open them up. And I did end up getting two of these figures, one of which to open and enjoy, and the other one to keep unopened in my complete Batman-related unopened action figure collection. Alright, now that we've got them out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He does come with a display stand, 6 alternate hands, totaling 8 interchangeable hands, an unmasked Jean-Paul Valley head. He's got a grapnel hook that comes out of one of his gloves, and then he has 2 different sets of Batarangs, and they're in the middle of projecting out of his gloves. But before we take a look at the accessories, let's talk about and check out the actual figure. So this is Jean-Paul Valley, Azrael as Batman from Nightfall. He debuted in this costume in Batman issue 500, a huge milestone. Somebody else taking up the mantle of the Bat, never really been done before, and he stayed that way for a couple years of real time at least. To me, Nightfall was a very impactful story. It was one of the first graphic novels I ever purchased. I was like 9 or 10 when it came out. I like the artwork. I like the story itself. It sounds very gimmicky, but it's done pretty well. I also like the fact that it has almost every single one of Batman's Rogues Gallery involved. This is the first figure to kick off Mafex's Nightfall line, and I'm really excited to see what else is coming. We know about Batman and Bane, but I'll take anything they will release. Mafex does an excellent job on their comic figures, and this guy is no exception. So let's take a look. Start with his head here. It's armored. There's no mouth. His helmet covers the entire face. His neck is silver. Eyes are pure white. He's got the cape almost coming to spikes here. His front part in the comics, this was a light, could project a bat signal. Looks like he's got double jointed elbows, double jointed knees. I remember on the Mattel figure, and I'm sure those of you out there have been collecting for a long time, they screwed up and made the fins backwards. Looks like Mafex has already went up Mattel. Now, I like the fact they gave the cape version. I see a lot of other ones give you that sort of wing thing he has on the back. This was how he first wore the armored suit, with a cape. Batman 500. You can see it's silver, metallic here. He's got the utility belt sort of partially around his body. The belt around his thigh. It all looks very nice, very reminiscent of the comic. He's got those spiked gloves or gauntlets. They're bottom and fist here. Can't wait to see the other ones. And just a closer look at his face and head sculpt. Just a little side note on his leg fins, or whatever you want to call these things. They're made of kind of a hard plastic. They don't have a lot of give to them. If you're not careful, I could see those things breaking off. I mean, they don't feel fragile, but they don't have a lot of give or bend to them. One on his arms, on the other hand, they have at least a little bit of give to them, I feel like. And then, here's the figure broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Now let's take a look at his accessories, and let's start off with the display stand. Here's his display stand. Comes in a bunch of different pieces. Here's the main part of the display stand. It comes in 3 separate pieces. When you put all 3 pieces together, this is what it's going to look like. It's got the large base there, 3 different peg holes to attach the base. Then the base here, it can rotate at the bottom, hinge at the bottom, hinge in the middle, hinge at the top, rotation at the top, and there's a clamp to hold your figure. And there are some more pieces of the display stand. It'll allow you to support the figure in different poses, some other pieces to balance him. Now, I'm not going to use the regular display stand, much less these parts. Now let's take a look at his hands. He has a total of 8 of them, 4 pair. Here he is, with his first pair of hands. These are his fists. Then, with his second pair of hands. These are very similar to fists, but they have a very small grip on them as well. Can hold something pretty tiny. And here's his third pair of hands. These are some larger claw type hands. These are open. Look like they could grip something large. I've always sort of associated Azrael the Bat Armor with these large claws. One of his signature things. And here's his final pair of hands. Possibly my favorite pair. He's got these open, wide claw hands. Giant claw-like fingers. I can just imagine him getting ready to kill Bane with these things, and then stopping right at the last second. Now let's look at his 2 heads. He has one with the Azrael Batman armor helmet on, and one with the unmasked Jean-Paul Valley head. When Jean-Paul Valley was first in Nightfall and first became a Batman ally, he had long hair and glasses. He got a lot of confidence when he became Batman, cut his hair, and this is how he looked after Nightfall. Here he is, with his first head. This has the Batman helmet on. Then, the unmasked Jean-Paul Valley head. Looks pretty good, although I would love one with the long hair and the circular glasses. You can have Azrael with his unmasked Jean-Paul Valley head, holding the other head as if he just took his helmet off. Here's his grapnel piece. At the front, it's got the little hook there, and then it's got this wire that goes all the way down. It is a bendy wire. You can bend it any pose you like, but straight makes the most sense. Here's Azrael, shooting his grapple line out of his gauntlet. Here are his batarangs. His batarangs are small discs that shoot out of his gauntlet. I remember them being kind of impactful to me. I still remember reading those panels to this day. Azrael shooting these batarangs out of his gloves, injecting them and stabbing Bane all over his arms and his body. Batman in general is a very brutal character, but Azrael's way over the top. Jean-Paul Valley was way more brutal than Bruce Wayne, and that's what caused Bruce Wayne to eventually retake the mantle of the Bat. Here's Azrael, launching some batarang discs out of his gauntlet. And yes, he has 2 sets, so you can launching him out of both gloves at the same time. Definitely reminds me of those comic panels from the end of Batman 500, when Azrael came out and overtook Bane. Personally, I think instead of having sort of white air effects between the batarangs, it should have been transparent. Now let's take a look at his cape. Cape is made of soft goods cloth, has a wire, bendy wire on the edges, outstretches about this big, and it can hold pretty much any pose you want. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, he's standing at about 6.4 inches tall, which could translate to about 16 centimeters, and if you go to the top of the ears, about 6.6 inches tall. And now let's look at his articulation. Start with his head here. Of course, it can rotate from side to side. It can look up, not too much, down quite a bit, but it sort of looks right down into his armor. He does have articulation at the bottom of the head, top of the neck, as well as the bottom of the neck. Pretty good range of motion there. Shoulders on a ball joint of sorts. Goes up about 90 degrees, up, down, around, all that good stuff. He does have drop-down shoulders. You can see they can kind of go down this far, then back up there. Bicep cut below that. Double-jointed elbows, but they don't go in very far as his big, bulky gauntlets. His wrist can rotate. It's going to be hinged. Ball joint. Ball joint his torso. Rotate around, forward and back. Another ball joint his waist. And his utility belt is pretty soft. Gets out of the way easily. Rotate around, forward and back, giving him a very wide range of motion in his torso area. But be careful. Sometimes you can expose this gap and it looks bad. Legs go about this far. Ball joints. Rotation is minimal. His legs go forward about that far. Back, not much. He also has these drop down hips. And if you don't have them even, it kind of limits what they can do. You gotta fix them both. Double jointed knees below that. And then his ankle here, forward and back. Rotate. Now, in order to tilt it, you almost have to rotate that ball inside. A little bit annoying. And then to articulation. It'll start off with Bane confronting Batman in the Batcave. Bane is ruthless and intelligent enough to have figured out Batman's secret identity, Bruce Wayne. He has been pitting Batman against his rogues gallery for months. Batman is at his weakest point right now. Batman throws a punch at Bane, but he's so weak, it doesn't even make a scratch. Bane is beating and pummeling Batman. He punches and throws him into Jason Todd's memorial, and it's at that moment Bane breaks the Batman, picks him up over his head, lifts up one knee, and breaks his back like a twig, thus crippling Bruce Wayne and ending his career as Batman. Bane comes to the rooftops of Gotham, lifts Batman above his head. He says, "I am Bane. The city is mine. Batman is no more. I have destroyed him. I rule these streets. I rule Gotham. Here is your hero, your protector. Take him and bury him." Bane proceeds to throw Batman off the top of the building. Batman lands on the ground. Police are surrounding the area. Commissioner Gordon, Bullock, and Montoya, and a bunch of other GCPD officers are looking down at this broken, bloody Batman. An ambulance comes. They load Batman up and drive away. Little do the police know, it's actually Alfred and Jean-Paul Valley saving Bruce. A while later, as Azrael has donned the mantle of the Bat, he finally takes on Bane. He starts off by immediately launching batarangs all over Bane. After a long, drawn-out, bloody fight, Azrael gets the upper hand. Azrael wins. He's about to strike that killing blow at Bane. And right before Azrael kills Bane, he stops, drops him down, says, "No, you're broken, Bane. Blackgate Prison can hold the pieces." Commissioner Gordon looks and thinks, maybe it is still him. Maybe it is still our Batman. Now let's check him out, next to some other action figures, starting off with some other Azrael figures. Here he is, next to all the different McFarlane DC Multiverse Jean-Paul Valley Azrael figures. These are all officially Jean-Paul Valley by McFarlane, but this white suit of SARS Azrael, it really should be labeled Michael Lane. Makes a lot more sense based off the color scheme. And here he is, next to a DST or Diamond Select Toys Gotham Azrael. This is not Jean-Paul Valley, this is actually Theo Galavan. Then, next to all my different DC Direct and DC Collectibles Azrael figures, these two are Jean-Paul Valley, and these three are Michael Lane. Here's the Mafex Knightfall Azrael, next to the DC Direct Nightfall Azrael. They're in the exact same costume, the cape, not the wings. Both fantastic figures. And now, next is a Mattel DC Universe Classics Azrael figures. This is his suit before he became Batman. This was him from Sword of Azrael. Very similar to the outfit he wears in the Rebirth comics. And these two are his armored suits. These have the wings. He wore these in Night Quest and Night's End. As you can see, Mattel fucked up and they did his, I don't know, what do you call them, wrist fins, gauntlets, totally backwards. So dumb. And here, next to the older Hasbro Azrael figures, here are all of my Azrael figures, whether it be Jean-Paul Valley, Michael Lane, or Theo Galavan, and I believe I have every single one of them in the 6 and 7 inch scale. Here he is, next to a custom Jean-Paul Valley in civilian attire that I made. This is the nerdy, long-haired version with glasses, and here, next to a custom Theo Galavan in civilian attire. Theo Galavan was running for mayor in Gotham. And here, next to some Assassin's Creed figures, I used these for members of the Order of Saint Dumas. Now let's check him out, next to some other Mafex figures. Here he is, next to the most recently released Batman-related Mafex figure that I've gotten. This is the new Batman Adventures Joker. And now let's check him out, next to some other Mafex Batman figures. Here he is, with the Dark Knight Batman 3.0. Then, with the DC Cinematic Universe Ben Affleck Batman from Justice League. And here he is, next to the Hush Batman. Then, next to the Dark Knight Returns Batman. Like I said before, these Mafex comic lines, Hush, Dark Knight Returns, and Nightfall, are absolutely fantastic. And finally, here he is, next to the new Batman Adventures Batman. Now let's check him out, next to some custom Bat Rogues that I made. These are all based off their looks from Nightfall. Here he is, next to Zombie Trog and Bird. These are Bane's henchmen from Nightfall. Here's Azrael, next to a custom Cornelius Stirk. Then, next to a custom Film Freak. He died pretty early on in Nightfall. Then, next to a custom Amygdala, based off his look from Nightfall. Here's Azrael, next to a custom Abattoir. Abattoir was a Batman villain that Azrael killed. The first one, and that was when Bruce Wayne realized he was not worthy to carry the mantle of the Bat. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, to see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix it with. Since he's a Mafex figure, they're typically the 6-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the smaller action figure lines I collect, and work my way larger. Here he is, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. And here he is, next to some SH Figure Arts action figures. Then, standing next to some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And since we already checked him out, next to a bunch of other Mafex Batman figures, here he is, next to a bunch of other regular Mafex figures. Then, next to some Mattel, DC Universe Classics, and Multiverse figures. And here he is, next to some Mezco 112 collective figures. And now, next to some Jazzwares AEW wrestlers. Then, next to some Mattel wrestling figures. And here he is, with some NECA figures. Then, with some DC Direct and DC Collectibles figures. And now, with some McFarlane toys. And here he is, next to some DST or Diamond Select toys. And finally, next to some Jakks Pacific wrestling figures. So overall, this is a fantastic figure. I'm glad they went with a cape look. That is how Azrael looked when he first donned the bat armor. I think his accessories are great. The launching batarangs, the grapple hook, the large claws, the unmasked head. It's all absolutely fantastic stuff. Sculpt and paint job are excellent. Articulation is pretty good. I'm not a big fan of the drop-down shoulders. This guy can also be a little bit top-heavy, a little bit difficult to stand. Legs appear a little bit too thin for the rest of the figure. If I were to rate this guy, I'm going to give him a very strong 8 out of 10. Really enjoying this figure. He has some really cool action features. And he just looks badass. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say with the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.